web series which podcast the employability skills requirement from various industry experts organized by HR Club of Acharya Bangalore Business School. Start. Welcome you to ABB's HR Connect. Today among our midst we have Amith Prakash, Vice President HR at Randstad Sourceright. He is a diversity and the inclusion specialist who promotes a gender-neutral, culturally balanced and inclusive work environment that connects employees' passion with corporate philosophy through blended learning interventions at workplace. So it's a great opportunity for us to welcome you.
Thank you, it's great to be here.
Yes, sir. So please tell us, being as HR, certain skills are expected from the management students. Please talk about this.
Absolutely. If I look at the evolving workplace, the kind of skill sets which the industry expects from students is also evolving. The last 2 years especially have been one where the skill sets have been redefined, not only for the young students who are coming out from very well reputed institutions like yours, but also for lateral hires whom industries hire from across different companies. If you really ask me what is that one skill set which I would recommend for students right now, it would be a skill set which is called as having a growth mindset. Having a growth mindset is extremely important because it actually defines who you are as a person and what kind of trends are you spotting in the environment. The growth mindset which I'm talking about also helps students to understand what are the specific areas which a student should focus on in terms of his or her own growth. Now in institutions what happens is you come across a lot of subjects, you come across a lot of insights from professors, but at the same time it is very important to assimilate all of this. How you assimilate this along with what are the trends which are happening in the macroeconomic environment determines your mindset. Taking this mindset that you have into action is what I call as the growth mindset. So it's basically understanding, okay, there are certain problems in the environment. What kind of solutions can I bring as a student from my own perspective? Because when companies come for hiring, they look at what kind of solutions that students can provide, which can sort of help them to grow in the next opportunity which is there in the environment. So I would say that having a good and a very strong growth mindset is one of the most important skills that students should possess.
Thank you, sir. So should the students to be a jack of all trades, master of none, or master of one? This is a tough question it seems, and ultimately career dilemma for a lot of job seekers, specialist versus generalist. What is the role for the futures?
Professor, I think it's like the chicken and the egg story. What came first, the chicken or the egg? If you ask me, I would like to relate this question of yours to a story which my professor told me on my very first day when I had joined MBA. And this was a class in strategic management. So a professor came to our classroom and he said, in life, you will have two choices. The first choice is you will have the option of knowing something about everything. And in the second option, you will have the choice of knowing everything about something. So when you want to know something about everything, the choice is of becoming a generalist. But when you want to know everything about something, the choice is of becoming a specialist. If I look at the world in today's context, I think we are working in a very hybrid kind of a work environment where some of the workforce is coming to the office, but a large part of the workforce is probably working from home and will continue to work from home for the foreseeable future. So if I look at this trade-off between being a specialist versus a generalist, I would say that any student or any professional would probably start his or her career by being a generalist and then over a period of time become a specialist. If I take my own case, I started my career in the manufacturing space, then went on to the technology space, and today I'm in the consulting space. Within these three sectors that I have worked with, I first started with external affairs and corporate communications, then went into HR, and then today I'm championing diversity, equity and inclusion. So if you look at my own journey, I would say that I started as a generalist. I did my MBA in marketing and HR, then went on to work in external affairs, corporate communications, and corporate social responsibility. So it was a very broad field. But as I was narrowing down with my years of experience, I began to realize that I'm more of a people person. I like to connect with people. I like to talk to people. I like to look at what are the people-related problems which an organization is facing. So from a very macroeconomic, outward-looking kind of a function, I then started looking at, okay, there's a lot that organizations face as a challenge when it comes to people, and therefore I started narrowing down my focus. So I had a very generalist kind of a start when I started my career. I was very excited to know everything about manufacturing, about the Toyota production system, about Kaizen, about 5S, about just-in-time, so many things that Toyota that brings to the world. So as I was learning, I was also interacting with a lot of people from different cultures. Japanese, people from Singapore, people from Asia, Europe, America, and all that. What I began to realize is people come from different cultures, and different cultures bring different perspectives. That really excited me a lot. And then I said, yes, you see, looking things outside, looking from a corporate communications perspective, yes, communications is a challenge, but also handling people is a bigger challenge. So then I started narrowing down my focus. So from PR, then moved into HR, now into diversity and inclusion. So I would say that it's always going to be a trade-off, and I would always recommend start by being a generalist, because that is like a buffet of options which is open to you. See which item you like the most and then specialize in that. And I think along with specialization, it is also linked to what you are passionate about. If you are passionate about people, you will probably move into that particular area. So I would say that, start in as a generalist, look at where your passion is, and then become a specialist in that particular area.
Thank you, sir. I think it's a nice perspective. Thank you. On emergence of the gig economy, what are the skills required for the future force?
I think the gig economy is a reality for today. And if I look at organizations and the trends which are seen in the macroeconomic environment, at least 20% of the workforce is a gig economy workforce. At least 20% are all contractual workforce that we have. So if I look at this particular part of the trend which is now coming in, one, it is very important for us to realize that we have to become very flexible, especially the youngsters who are now sort of completing their MBA programs and they're coming into the corporate world. They may face a little bit of a dilemma when companies come and offer them contractual roles. They say, we have a certain project, we're going to take you on board for at least 1 year. So once the project is over, then we will look at what comes next. So my advice over here is, don't be afraid to take that risk of getting into the gig economy. If you look at the world around us, let's say you take Swiggy, or you take a Zomato, or you take a Dunzo, this is the new economy which is thriving on gig, where people come in, they have a certain job to deliver, you pay a certain price, the job is done, the price is paid, and the project is sort of completed, or the transaction is completed. So this is going to be the new reality. I would only say that be prepared for the gig economy to come in, because with the world expanding through technology, you will have opportunities to take up new projects. Alright, I know a lot of individuals who are having a day job, but yet are doing a lot of projects. Like for instance, they have a passion for photography. Alright, they are using their skills, their passion, to do gig projects. So somebody wants a nice picture about the Nilgiris in India. They are willing to sort of take a weekend ride, take some nice pictures and post it to that person. So that's the gig over there. There are online academies who are inviting qualified applicants to come forward and teach them. So your students are spread across the world. You're sitting here in in Bangalore and you're teaching to a virtual audience. That's the gig economy. So with technology becoming more and more prevalent, with the VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous world becoming more and more prevalent, my answer is that it's going to be a SMAC world, SMAC. So VUCA is the problem, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. The solution is SMAC, social, mobile, analytics and cloud. So if you combine this together, the VUCA and the SMAC, you get the outcome is gig. And when you put these problems and solutions, gig economy is the solution for the future.
So, since you are practiced in HR, thought to ask this question to you. This gig economy, how being as HR, when you develop the culture in the organization, does it impact positively or negatively?
I think it's a very good question, because the way cultures are formed, it is not done overnight. It takes years and years of effort, right from the top leadership to every leader in the organization, to form what is the culture of the organization. When it comes to the gig economy, there is that little bit of a differentiation that comes in. That okay, there is a permanent staff working with the organization, and there's also a contractual staff working with the organization. At times what happens is, the contractual staff feels that, are we being treated differently? Do we have a different culture to follow? And to that I will say that, you as a HR leader, you should be very careful as to how you're treating your employees. Whether it's full-time or let's say your gig workforce, I think everybody expects a fair treatment at work. For instance, the earlier organizations that I was associated with, when the COVID-19 pandemic came, the organization did not differentiate between a full-time worker and a gig worker. As long as you're associated with the company took the responsibility of vaccinating you.
That's nice.
Alright, so they said, if you are associated with this company, if you are having an employee ID which is given out by this company, you are entitled for 100% vaccination, both the doses. Please go and take it, and please take a full reimbursement. So that sent out a very strong signal that yes, we may be on contract, no worries, but at the same time the company treats us at par. The same thing should also apply to policies. For instance, one of the things that I have seen in my own career is how you implement policies like prevention of sexual harassment in the workplace. Does the rule apply in the same way for a full-time employee versus a contractual employee? And my answer to that is yes. It has to apply in the same way. You cannot differentiate in any way if there is an incident on sexual harassment at the workplace. Even when it comes to recognition, alright, you can recognize employees in different ways, but what I'm saying is you should not miss recognizing the gig workforce. After all, let's not forget that even the gig workforce are all human beings. Alright, they are people like you and me. They also have feelings, they also have expectations. So I would say, let's take a balanced approach. Let's try and balance out what a company can do for its entire workforce, its permanent workforce, and the gig workforce. But my only submission is, keep in mind, your gig economy is growing. The sooner you recognize this trend, the better your policies and your organization will be placed.
Last question. Since you have rich experience on the domain, please suggest what are the important skills the student has to learn during this MBA or PhD time?
I would really say that MBA is one of the most finest courses a student can actually undergo in their academic life, because like the program says, it's the Masters of Business Administration. So you're doing a master's program in the first place. Second, the amount of exposure that the program gives you is very, very important to sort of give you a complete 360-degree kind of a view as to what is expected from the student in the business world. So if I put all these, criteria, all these factors together, I would say that one, have a very open mindset, alright? I mean, learn as much as possible. Like Alvin Toffler, the very famous futurist, he said, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn and relearn. So MBA is that place where you have to, learn, unlearn and relearn many, many times. And the amount of metamorphosis that you can undergo in an MBA program is simply phenomenal. So the students should probably take advantage of that opportunity. The amount of, academic exposure, the industry exposure that you get, I think the blend of both of these things is what you can sort of get, for yourself in these 2 years. Second is to also look at what can you predict by being a part of this program. There's so many things which are happening around us. It's a very uncertain, very complex, very volatile world. Can you start predicting what is the outcome of the future? And if you can predict those things, can you look at how do you want to carve a way ahead of you? You see, this is again a master's program. It's not an undergraduate program. A master's program tend to give you certain skills. So pick up these skills, alright? There are a host of subjects that you will be exposed to. So pick up those skills as you're doing your academic work, your industry exposure, blend it together, And then I believe you'll be the perfect choice for any corporate to come and do the hiring for you.
It's wonderful to hear from you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's lovely talking to you today.